In this video, we're going to give you the part one of our three-part Northern Circuit climb. So days 1, 2, and 3. Subscribe to the Slow Boat Sailing channel where we give you the secrets to crush your outdoor adventure. So I did the Northern Circuit climb because I thought that gave the best acclimatization profile and the best chance of summit success, because I didn't want to fly back to Tanzania not having summited. So we started out in Moshi at the Stella Weru Lodge, which my guide used. All right, I'm here outside of Arusha at the Stella Maris Lodge. This is where our guides are having us meet. And then we're gonna go drive 3 hours to the Lemosho Gate and then check into the park and then do our first hike and then go up to the forest camp. So they got there, they weighed our bags, all our porter bags, our porter duffel always had to be below 15 kilos, and then we had our own personal day pack. And then they loaded those duffels up to the top of the bus, and we actually drove out with all the people that were supporting us. So all 21 people, guides, cook, sanitation engineer, porters, tent master, etc., drove out with us, and we saw a lot of animals. We saw zebras on the drive. We also saw a troop of giraffes. It took forever because they also stopped for an early brunch for the porters so they could get started ahead of us. We had lunch when we got to the gate. And then after we got checked in and had our lunch, then we were ready to start hiking on the Lemosho Gate. So we started out with 5 clients and 21 staff from our guiding company. And the Lemosho Gate was just under 7,000 feet of elevation. All right, so after we kind of got here about an hour later after getting lunch, excellent lunch by the way, there was about a quarter-mile walk to the Lemosho Gate. Actually, more down than up. And now we're officially on the trail to our first camp. The first day was in the woods. We saw a bunch of monkeys there. We'd seen some monkeys on the drive up too, but we saw like both types of monkeys that they had, the black and white ones, and then also the gray ones that I think are called blue. And I think one of the clients was struggling this day with the climbing and descending. Took it kind of slow that first day, and we got to the forest camp, and the porters go ahead of you and they set up camp before you do, and so everything's like ready to go. So one of the reasons why you want to go slow is so camp's set up for you when you come to camp, in addition to the better acclimatization profile of just going pole slow. And this was our only day in the woods, except for when we left the park at the end of our trip. Right, so we're at the forest camp today. It was kind of a slow hike, but we all got it done. I think today's the easy day. I think tomorrow is the hard day. I think what I'm kind of waiting for is, because we're supposed to have 3,000 feet of elevation gain tomorrow to our next camp, is to see how we all do with the new elevation. So I think this is kind of today, easy piece of cake. We saw tons of monkeys. We saw giraffes, zebras. So pretty awesome day all in all. And the weather has just been spectacular. It was like 70 degrees near Arusha, and it was about it was very moderate, but I do think it's going to get cold pretty quick. So that's the downside, is that as we get an elevation, we're gonna be wearing more layers. But today I was in my base layer, and it was pretty comfortable. Can't ask for a much better day, I think. So I preface this by saying that even though I'm going to make mention of the guiding company that I paid for, I got no discounts. This is not an endorsed video, not a sponsored video. So I paid for everything, and I ended up picking them because I thought they would be the best. We'll see if they're good, bad, or indifferent as we go along. But so far it seems so pretty good. So one thing I'd say about the Peak Planet
tents. Is they actually, if you're getting a single tent, then it's kind of a small 2-person tent, 4-season tent. It was quite nice for the Peak Planet 1-person tent. There was no condensation in it. It was a double-walled tent, 4-season, so that was good. I'm told that the 2 people get kind of like a 3-person tent, so they have a bit room. There really wasn't a ton of room to have 2 adults in that unless you knew each other really well. The other thing that they use is these sleeping pads, so you'll have to see with whatever operator you have what they do about sleeping pads. They had foam pads here. I would say that the foam pads were pretty good. They similar night sleep, I think it was like 50 degrees overnight, something like that, Fahrenheit. And I was pretty much too hot most of the night because I have a 0-degree bag, and the running pants that they required I take, they said we had to have fleece pants, were too hot. So after my initial being totally zonked out because I was tired, it was a little hot. It actually got warmer in the evening, I think. But so that's a good problem to have, but that's a problem probably not going to have as much later on. I'm going to probably have to put on my wool pants. So anyways, and the other thing is we had a toilet tent. It was quite nice. That's a nice thing to have, is a toilet tent. But I'd highly recommend getting a very big, pee bottle. I had a 32-ounce pee bottle, and it was like, I filled that up very easily. So I'd say I had the choice between like a 48 versus a 32. I think I'll put a link in the description. I am an Amazon affiliate. You can click that link or not, or buy it someplace else at no charge to yourself. But that's definitely something you want to plan on. And if you're a woman, then they recommend like the Shiwis. Keep that in mind, because every guide service is going to try to pump you with as much water as possible. And shame you if you're not drinking a lot of water, so you're going to pee a lot. Okay, so you can see Mount Meru just where my finger's pointing there. This is the first time we just entered the moorland zone.
With our hike on day 2, we left the woods and entered into the moorland zone, which is more what you'll see for most of your hike.
At the Shira Ridge, there was kind of a lot of up and down, very steep.
Yes.
It was kind of, one of the things I think was really interesting about the trail was that there were porters, and the porters have such heavy loads. They're carrying it around 15 kilograms plus their own carry, and so could be over 50 pounds easily. And going down the mountain, a lot of them are struggling to control their speed and their steps, and they also have wide loads. So that was challenging about trying to descend to 10,000 feet and then also not mess up the porters. But what we're doing today, we're going to Shira 1 camp. Yes. So once we get to the top of the ridge where we want to, not the very top of the ridge, then we're going to go back down to the Shira Plateau, and that's where we're going to camp at about 11,600.
So now that we're out of the forest and in the moorland zone, we're also getting high enough that we're above the cloud line, and we're starting to get some views of the Kibo summit, right? So the clouds tend to obscure the Kibo peak where Uhura Peak is, the ultimate peak is. And from pretty much now on, we're going to be able to see Kibo a lot. So this was one of our bigger elevation gain days, going from 8,600 to like 11,600. All
right, so we're at Shira 1 camp today. So the hike was about rated distance 7 kilometers and about 3,000 feet of elevation gain from the forest camp. It's the first time we can see a full view of Kilimanjaro at this camp. This is kind of It's a big elevation jump. So 8,600. Typically, the medical literature for about altitude, they'll say it's a freebie to sleep at 8,600. Most people won't have altitude sickness, but then after that, they should only raise by 1,000 feet per day, right? And we raise by 3,000 feet per day. So, in terms of my preparation, earlier this month, we climbed several 14ers, camped at 10,000 feet, so I'd have a better chance of being acclimated for this jump. Now, for the rest of the Northern Circuit route, after this, the acclimation profile should be better, and we'll be gaining, on average, about 1,000 feet per day. But it's an open question. I think there were people that had symptoms of altitude sickness in our party, and this morning, and we'll see how they react to this higher elevation, and hopefully I don't react badly to the higher elevation. But we're just going to have to wait it out and see. Tomorrow is the Shira 2 camp, and I think this is kind of what we're going to expect in terms of landscape for a while. It's quite windy. It's supposed to get really cold at night too. So subscribe.
So tonight we got a sampling of the Kilimanjaro songbook that all guides are going to sing to you, especially for the tipping ceremony at the end, but they did it today just to get us excited, I guess. And then we hiked to Shira 2 camp in the morning. It was really cold in Shira 1. Supposedly it just gets really cold in that particular area because it's, I don't know, in some sort of valley that cold air goes down. And that was probably our coldest night besides when we summited. So one of the clients departed after the first night and decided this was not for him. And so we were 4 clients and I was the only man among, it was all the rest of the clients were women at this point going forward.
I like how they've done the tent stakes here at Shira 2 camp. I don't know if the ground is too hard, but they've actually tied the tents to rocks instead of driving stakes. Now, it may be the fact that it's a high wind, or it may be that the ground is really hard, but that's a nice option if you're having trouble driving in stakes. Okay, so we just hiked from Shira 1 to Shira 2. This is about 12,500 feet, or about 3,850 meters. It was, on my watch, it was less than 6 miles. They said it was 10K, but I don't think it was. Closer to 8K. And it wasn't very much elevation gain today. So since it was such an easy hike today and we're here well before noon, we're probably going to do a hike after lunch in the afternoon. But so far, everything seems quite good. And then tomorrow, we're going to go up to Lava Tower, which is right behind me. It's kind of by the sign. The sign is kind of pointing to it. And then we'll descend and not camp near Lava Tower. Okay, so we're done with day 3. Tomorrow we're going to climb up to the Lava Tower, which is about 15,100 feet, have lunch there, and then go back down and camp at Moore Hut, which is about 13,900 feet, so we'll gain about 1,000 feet of sleeping elevation. I wanted to go through kind of the daily routine, so I've gone through 3 days. It seems like our routine is about 6 a.m. We get a hot water. So I think the thing to understand is typically for Peak Planet and probably most operators, but check with your operator, is that they're going to have a ratio of support to clients roughly about 4. We actually have a client to support ratio of 5 because somebody dropped out after the first day. So that's porters, cook, sanitation engineer, They have like 50% guide ratio. So there's somebody comes around, there's like a waiter, and he brings out the water at 6. Then they're going to give you the washy, which is a little bit of water, hot water to wash with. So you could wash your face, maybe wash your hair, something like that. If you don't have a lot of hair like me, I mean, if you have a lot of hair, you're a woman, you would think that'd be inadequate facilities. And then it's breakfast after that, and then we start hiking around 7:30. And then we'll probably have lunch typically. So tomorrow's going to kind of be a different schedule, that they're actually going to take the lunch up high and then bring the mess hall down low for dinner. But most of the camp is just going to go to the next camp and avoid Lava Tower, but we're going to Lava Tower for acclimatization. So typically we're going to have lunch where we're going to camp, and then we're going to have dinner around 6:37. And then the other thing that we have in the morning and the evening is the health checks, right? So there's like a 13-point scale of health checks, and then we'll go through that before we start hiking, and then before we have dinner, and that's about it. So there's not a lot to do once it gets dark. It was quite cold. Can be quite cold. It was quite cold last night. There was frost on the outer tent. So that's kind of what our schedule is like. Subscribe to Slow Boat Sailing. We'll talk more about day 4 when we get to it.